I must be probably the only actor in the Union Equity who never ever wanted to be an actor. I never thought about that. It didn't interest me in one slightest bit in the world. As Rick has told you, I was born in Whitechapel. My father was a docker. My mother was I nearly said the word scrubber, but I didn't mean that, a cleaner. My mother was a cleaner. So I had no background in show business whatsoever. But for some reason, when I was 17, I was playing football on Hackney Marshes. Now, Hackney Marshes in London, on a Sunday morning, has thousands and thousands of men and boys all playing football. Thousands of them. And I'm playing for one little pub side, one little pub team. And it so happened that one week, a fellow joined us called Tom Duncan. Now, Tom Duncan at this time was a journalist who worked on the local paper, the East London Advertiser. And he was the editor of the show page. I'm sure you have it here. In your local paper, it tells you everything that's going on in cinema and theatres and what have you. Now, Tom had only been with us probably about 4 or 5 weeks, and we're playing football, and one night we were football training. And afterwards we're having a little pint. I'm only 17, and I'm having a pint in the pub. And for some reason, and I don't know why he did it, I never did ask him, he suddenly turned to me and he said, "Tell me, John, have you ever thought about becoming an actor?" I said, "What?" He said, "No, I mean it." And he took out of his pocket a business card and he said, "There's a new drama school opening at the Theatre Royal Stratford E15 in about 2 months' time. I think you should try that." Now, I don't know why he said it, I don't know what he saw in me, because I'd never thought about it at all. But 2 days later, I'm looking at this card, and I thought, I wonder. So I thought, I'll have a go at this. And across the road, there was a phone box, red phone box. They're the old ones, A and B. Remember that? Not many of you do. And I went over and I called and I got through to the secretary and she said, "I'll send you a prospectus." Well, that threw me completely. I mean, there's 3 syllables there, isn't there? Prospectus? Something like that. Anyway, she did. I got it. And there were 2 pieces in it. There was a piece of Shakespeare's Twelfth Night and Chekhov's Three Sisters. So I get these and I got the audition, 10:30, Monday morning, Theatre Royal Stratford. So I take the day off from work and I turn up booted and suited and I'm outside and I thought, I can't do this. Not only had I not been on a stage before, I'd never been in a theatre before. And I'm thinking, no, I can't do this. This is not for me. And I took 1 step to walk away and the director, Joan Littlewood, walked round the corner. She said, "You John Lyons?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Come in," and I was in. Without thinking. Which was good, because I had no time to think about it. We got on stage. She said, "All right, John," she told me a few things, what the plans were for the theatre. So she said, "Right, you're going to do your pieces, your audition pieces?" I said, yeah, I will. So I got them out of my pocket, and she turned around and she said, "John, haven't you learned it?" I told her the truth. I said, no, I haven't learned it. I don't understand it. Seriously, I did, and I didn't. I was a secondary school boy in Bethnal Green. I hadn't even passed my 11 plus. How am I going to understand a bit of Shakespeare? So she said, "Don't worry, John, put it away, we'll improvise." We did. She gave me a few things to improvise. I did, and about half an hour later, she said, "We start in a month's time, would you like to start?" And there I was in drama school, just by accident. By somebody saying to me, "Have you ever thought about becoming an actor?" And that completely changed my life. I was 17 at the time, and as I said before, I'm now 80, and I'm still working. Well, pick the bones out of that. Is that too long?
No, that was wonderful. My wife's over there, she'll say that's the quietest I've been for a long time. But you left the drama school, yeah, you know her as well, You left drama school at 20.
Yes.
And when did you meet your lovely wife Anne, who is sitting here? And yes, you quite rightly say you've never stopped working since then.
That's true. That's true.
So Anne has lived this life with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in fact, I met Anne before I went to drama school. Anne and I, my wife and I, who sit down here, were childhood sweethearts. Oh, shut up. We're childhood sweethearts. When we met, I was 15 and Anne was 16. And it was New Year's Eve, and we were in a pub called The Blind Beggar. Does anyone know that? The Blind Beggar in Mile End Road. I'm 15, I shouldn't have been in there. She was 16, she shouldn't have been there. Anyway, this was New Year's Eve. And for some reason, and I don't know why, I was with friends, she was with friends, we'd never met. I went home, I only lived 10 minutes away from that. And I got home, and for some reason, and I don't know why I did it, but thank God I did, I went back to that pub. And we started chatting. And I took her home that night. I walked her home that night, and she gave me her telephone number where she was working in the City of London. Advance 1221, I still remember it. Advance 1221. I called her the next day, and we started stepping out. We were courting. And I'm glad to say, 7 years later, when I was 21 and I was 22, we got married. And I'm glad to say that here we are, in March of this year, we've now been married for 59 years.
Johnny, it's 58 years, not 59.
Pardon?
58 years.
58?
We could be 58, any advance.
Are you sure? Well, it feels like 59. No, sorry, no, I didn't mean that. The only thing I can say to that is I wish we were doing it all over again. I think I got out of that.
Yeah. I don't think I have, but I think you have. So I think everyone here will agree that you will have seen John in a lot of things, obviously. We're going to talk about the obvious one. But you will have seen him in a lot of things, and he's always a well-spoken actor. But your Cockney accent used to be stronger than mine, didn't it? You had elocution lessons.
Yeah, when I first went to drama school, as I say, I was 17, and there I was born. I'm a true Cockney. I was certainly born within the sound of Bow Bells, but it was the middle of the war. When I went to drama school, yes, I had such a strong Cockney accent, you couldn't really understand what I was saying. So we had to do something. If you want to be an actor, you can be a Cockney actor for the rest of your life if you like. I mean, Michael Caine hasn't done bad, has he? Ray Winston, they haven't done too bad, but not too many of them do. But if you want a long career, you've got to do something about your voice, so you can play many, many parts. So one lady, one lovely teacher, took me under her wing, and she met me every morning at 9 o'clock. The school started at 10, and we would have a one-to-one elocution lesson. And up her sleeve, she had one little trick. She had a bone, probably about 3 inches high. No, I'm talking about 3 inches. 3/4 of an inch high. And it had a groove in each end. And she used to put it in my mouth, between my teeth. Like that. So that my mouth would stay that way, but not that way. Which is what I was doing. That way. It made it go that way. So I would pronounce certain words. The other thing it did, which was a great thing, that tongue, that lazy muscle at the back there, it made that start to come forward and start to pronounce certain words, like think instead of think, thought instead of thought, that sort of idea. So it got that tongue working. And the third thing it did for me, which was wonderful, because we were trained for the theatre, not TV, we were trained, so your voice had to hit the back of the theatre. So it took my voice from up here in the throat, which most Cockneys have it up here in the throat like that. It took it down into my diaphragm. So I now have a deep, deep voice. And when I work in the theatre, yes, if there's no mics, and we don't always have a mic, I can reach the back of the theatre. So yes, I used to do that every day, 5 days a week for 3 years. And I'm glad to say it's worked. Because since then I'm playing many parts.
Well, as you can hear, I haven't had the same elocution lessons.
You're not bad, you're not bad, you're not bad.
Yeah, that's probably why I've been on television quite as much. Anyway, the first time we saw you on our screens, and I don't know whether anyone remembers this at all, because we're going, this is between 1966 and 1967,
Oh, yeah.
and it was a series called United, which was about Brantwich United Football Club.
Yeah.
But it gave birth to such actors as George Layton,
Yes.
Michael Redfern, Ronald Allen, and I believe that it was all filmed at the Stoke City ground under the watchful eye of Jimmy Hill.
Jimmy Hill, correct. How do you know all this?
The book.
You've read the book? At least that's one. Yes, we did. We did that for 2 years. Wonderful way to learn how to act on TV, because, I mean, you would do 2 episodes a week, which is not easy to do in 5, I'd say a week, 5 days. Not easy. While I think of that, I also did Crossroads. I did 4 episodes of that in 5 days. Believe me, that's not easy, I'll tell you that. But yeah, I did that. I did that for 2 years. And unfortunately, at that time, they used to record it on video. And the BBC, whenever they'd finish with it, they would tape over the video. They wouldn't just destroy it, they'd tape over it and use it again. So it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. It just disappeared. But that's not the first time I did TV. I did one before that with Anthony Booth. Does that mean anything? Anthony Booth is it Sherry or Cherry or Sherry Booth?
It's a Tony Blair. Yeah.
That's it, something like that. Called Catch Hand.
Yeah.
And that was my very, very first TV. I left drama school on Friday night and I started filming on Monday morning. How lucky can you be? And that was it.
That's
So, yeah,
brilliant.
that was my first one.
And in case not many people know, I've done quite a lot of work with the BBC, and it's very frustrating because a lot of these old great shows, these great comedies, these great dramas, unlike now when everything's digital, they just used to use reel-to-reel tapes and tape over them to save them having to buy more. So a lot of these programs don't exist anymore.
Gone like my career.
Well, we know that's not true, don't we? Because you're still very much
I'm
working.
still here.
So, having appeared in both comedy and drama, which genre do you prefer? Have you got a preference?
Well, no, yeah, if anything, probably. I have done a lot of comedy on TV and in the theatre. I do pantomime, so that's comedy. So I do a lot of that, and I do a lot of straight plays. But I think comedy it's more rewarding because you get a comeback, you get laughs, you get something coming back at you. So it's rewarding, but it's tricky. Comedy is probably harder than drama. Now, a lot of the comedy I did, like on the buses, Rick mentioned on the buses, Jordan Mildred, I did all those, and they're difficult because you start on a Monday morning and you would have a read through and then start rehearsing. Producers run on the Wednesday, camera rehearsal on Thursday, Friday you would film it with a live audience. So you've had 5 days to do this. Now, you've never had the audience before, so you don't know whether the laughs are going to come, if they're going to come at all. So really you're doing, when you're recording, you're doing 2 performances. You're doing one for TV, and you're doing one to the audience. So it's very, very tricky to do comedy. But strangely enough, I quite enjoyed it. I liked it. It didn't frighten me.
But that's another question I really wanted to ask you, was that's about the genres, but do you enjoy stage or screen more? Because again, you've done both of those.
No, if anything, stage. Most definitely stage. Stage simply because TV and film, it's so technical. You've got to be, I'm quite good at it, even if I say myself, at the technique of television. But they ask you to do so many technical things, apart from saying your lines and your words and giving a performance. Now they may say to me, right, I've got to speak to you, and the camera will be over there, and the director will say, John, when you say that line, don't lean forward like that. Okay, but when you say that line, go back because we want to see Rick. Now, all these things have got to be in your head at the same time as giving a performance. On stage, you don't need it. If I walk out on the stage and you can see me and I can see, well, I don't want to see you. No, I didn't mean that. But if I walk out on stage, you can see me and you can hear me and I've hit my light, then it's up to me. I'm in control. But on TV, everybody else is. Am I keeping you up? Sorry, I thought you were asleep then. You weren't, were you? You devil.
I didn't know he was going to do that.
So the answer to that is stage. Plus also with stage, you get more time to rehearse, and then you get more time, please God, if you're in a long run, you get more time to work on it, to do it again the next day, to do it again the next day, think about it a bit more, and you'll find that within 2 months, your performance has completely changed to that first night. So you get that advantage on stage. You don't get that on TV. Once you've done it on TV or film, that's it, finished, bomb. You're not going to do it again.
I've done a couple of these chats with you now.
Yes.
And obviously we were chatting earlier, and I found out something I didn't know, so I'm going to ask you about that now, and that's serves you right because of what you just did to me.
You've done it before. Okay.
So
Just what I'm saying. Change the batteries.
I was surprised to find that when you do panto, or when you do a stage show, such as Father Brown, there is so little rehearsal time.
Oh, it's terrible. It's that way. You need no. Can you hear me? Yeah. This is where the theatre. What did you just ask? Oh, rehearsal time, my God. Yeah, pantomime. I would do pantomime. I would do it again this year. This year, if anybody lives anywhere near it, I will be in Folkestone.
Oh, no, you won't.
Oh, don't stay, there's always one.
He's behind you.
He is as well. Has he got a knife? Is he okay? Yeah, so I shall be at Folkestone this year.
Funny enough, it's Beauty and the Beast, and no comments there.
Yeah, Beauty and the Beast. I play the professor. We do 10 days rehearsal for that, for a pantomime. And believe me, you need more than 10 days. It's hard work, 2 shows a day. And I tell you, this is true. I've been doing it now for 30 odd years, and I keep on. But I keep saying to my wife, this will be the last one. This, please, will be the last one. And I promise you, and I do this every year, when we start rehearsals, because you've got a bit of dancing, you've got a bit of singing, you've got a bit of acting, you've got all the lines to learn, you've got kids everywhere. I go home after about 3 days and my legs are killing me, my knees are killing me, my head, I've got a headache, and I say to my wife, never again. Please don't let me do this again. Come next May, I get the call and I have a word with my knees. And if they say okay, I do it again. So yeah, but I complain, but it's great fun. I do enjoy it, So yes, rehearsal period, it's not really good.
Yeah, no, it's very short, and that really surprised me. And what you all can't see is the faces on his wife Anne and his daughter Laura as he's talking about the fact that he's never going to do this again. I've known John for a couple of years now, and certainly you said it last year, so I know what they've now been through for.
All right, you've called me out.
I'm guessing that most people here want to find out about A Touch of Frost.
Yeah, sure.
So shall we talk about A Touch of Frost?
Yes.
Did you know from the start how successful it was going to be, and how did you get into it?
Well, no, I didn't. Well, the way I got into it very quickly, I did a lot of work for the casting agent called Marilyn Johnson, and she did the Sweeney. She did a Bond film as well. Very big casting lady. And she called my agent one day and she said, "Would John like to go to audition for a new series starring David Jason?" I said, "Yes, of course I would." Well, I go along to the office in Holborn, and there was just one man, the producer. Don Lever, his name was. He was the producer stroke director. No David, no script writer, no script. It was just me and him, opposite on the desk, which is a strange audition. This doesn't often happen. Excuse me. So we're chatting away for about 40 minutes, 45 minutes. He didn't ask me to read or anything. And when we finished, he stood up, he shook my hand, and he said, "John, welcome to the Thames Valley Police." And that was it. That was it. I said, I didn't read the script. All he was really doing was gauging my personality, see whether I would fit with David, whether I would go along, whether I'd be a good team member, all these things. So he didn't really want to, he knew I could do the job, but he wanted to find my personality. And that was it. So we started, we were only ever going to do three 2-hour films. And we did. We started in 1992 at the beginning, and we did these three, and they were very, very good, the first three. Excellent. And as it got time for them to go out, and they were going to go out in December, on Sunday night following Coronation Street at 8 o'clock. Perfect timing. And probably about 2 months before that, David himself started to get cold feet. He started to get anxious. Not because he knew they were good, he'd seen them all privately. He knew they were good, but he became worried because he didn't know how you, the public, were going to accept him. Because you knew him mainly as a comedy actor. Certainly with Del Boy, with Pa Larkin, all of that. He was a comedy actor. So now he's going to play this part, this policeman, and dealing with paedophiles and drug dealers and murder and girls being kidnapped and everything. And he thinks you're going to laugh at him. You're not going to take him seriously. Well, the first one went out in December 92, and he didn't have to worry at all. The next day it went straight to the top of the ratings. It went past Coronation Street, which was unusual in those days. And we carried on for another 17 and a half years we did that for. So nobody knew what was going to happen. And I wanted to tell you something very quickly about David. A lot of people are disappointed when they meet him because they think they're going to meet Del Boy. And they don't. David is a very quiet, very quiet man who likes his own personal space. He reads a lot. He likes to talk about politics and what have you, completely the opposite to Del Boy. So a lot of people are disappointed when they meet him, but he's not like that at all. He's a lovely, lovely, generous man.
So David Jason has actually done the foreword for this book, and I think what that shows is that David and John had a magnificent friendship right the way through all the filming and all the work that they did. And I think it's fair to say as well that it was a cast that liked to play pranks on each other. And from what I know, a lot of those pranks were played on you by Sir David. So do you want to talk about some of those?
I'll tell you how it started. Yeah, he did. My character was called George Toolham, and they became known as the George Toolham Wind-Ups. Now, David was very clever. He is a most generous actor. He didn't want the show to be just for him, just him. He wanted all of us to be part of it. Not just the actors. He wanted the carpenters, the makeup department, the wardrobe, everybody to be part of this show, because he knew, and it makes sense, everybody works harder if they are part of it. So he was very good at that. And I was instrumental in getting this idea across. I'll tell you how it started. It was about the third episode, and we're outside Manchester on a railway line. And the scene is, it's just David and I, and we're walking along a railway line, and the night before, a man had been hit by the train, and David and I are looking for body parts. It's a bit gruesome, isn't it? Have you just eaten? I'll be sorry. So we're walking along, and the scene is this. Have I got space here? The scene is this. Well, we're walking along, and down there, oh, wait a minute, Jack. Oh, look, that rag down there. He said, what is it? I said, I think there's a finger under it. He said, well, pick it up. I said, I'm not picking it up. He said, pick it up. So George gets out the little bag and the clippers, and he goes down, and I turn the rag over, I pick up the finger, I put it in the bag, close the bag, stand up, show it to him, and I put it in my pocket, and that's the end of the scene. Cut. Okay, good. Right, the director says, are you ready? Shall we go for one, David? Dave says, yeah, fine. John? Yeah, fine, that's okay. Oh, John, you're wanted in makeup. John goes into makeup. So I go into makeup on my own. Unbeknownst to me, this little rascal, under that rag, he's placed a rather large Cumberland sausage. I come out. I get on the marks. Is on your marks, John? On your marks. David, on your marks. Right. Camera's running. Sound's running. Camera's running. Bit technical, eh? Right. Camera running. Sound running. Action. Boom, boom. Oh, Jack, wait a minute. What is it? That rag down there, look. I think there's a finger underneath it. He said, well, pick it up. I said, I'm not picking it. He said, pick it up. So I go over, I lift this rag, and of course I jump 6 feet in the air. Down. Oh, that's funny. He's killing himself laughing. This is when I made the mistake. I said, David, you'll never catch me like that again. He said, you want to bet? I said, yes. He said, how much? I said, 50 quid. He said, you're on. For the next 16 and a half years, they had a different wind-up for every single episode. And it cost me £50 a time. I never caught them. They caught me every time. £50 a time. Well, it didn't bother me really, it really didn't. Because David put £50 to it, and it went to charity. I think it went to Macmillan Nurses and Great Ormond Street for children, which was good. So, but it created a most wonderful feeling. And I'm sure you can. I've got a few myself, private ones, of these wind-ups, but I think you'll find them on YouTube. I think you will. You'll find some on YouTube, is that right? And I don't get paid for it. Is it just one of us?
There's quite a lot about these pranks in the book as well, which obviously is on the side of the back. My wife is waving there because she's going to be selling them, and this is where you can actually get John to sign it for you and be photographed with John while he's doing it. So it's a good idea to buy the book here and not on Amazon. It's the only chance that you'll get to do that. So has everybody been watching the reruns of A Touch of Frost? Which yeah. So I'm not going to give away the ending. Because obviously some of you know how it ended, but some of you still won't. But when the show came to an end, how did you react to that?
Well, yeah, it was a very sad ending. I will tell them how it ends. Yes, I will. If not, just put your fingers in your ears. I will tell you. We filmed. The very last episode, we filmed 3 different endings. And if you remember, one of us was going to be killed. One of the featured actors were going to be killed. It was either going to be Frost, myself, Tulin, or the superintendent. One of us was going to be killed. So we did 3 different endings. In the hospital when they're dying, and we also did in the church and the burial when 3 of us got buried.
Can you see him in there?
And it was the very last episode, and I said, please, no more wind-ups. This is, not only is it a sad, sad scene, but it's a sad thing that we're never going to work again after 17 and a half years together. It's our last day, the very last day. Don't want wind-ups this time, please don't. So we do these scenes, and we get to the afternoon, and we get to the burial scenes. They bring in my coffin, it comes, Frost goes round the front, he puts my hat on the coffin, on my coffin, and he says, goodbye George, see you in the morning. They say, you can't say that, David, you can't say that. Let's do it again. He does it. What's going on here? What's happening? Is there a riot? What's a fire? Go on, someone. So that was it. So that was me done. Then they bring in Mullet, and they do the same with him. Then they bring in Frost's coffin, and they bring that in, and they put that down, and I walk round, and I've got his little pork pie hat, I put it on his coffin, and he's rigged that coffin, it blows up, right in my face, on the last day, on the very last episode. 2 months later, I'm in pantomime, down in Worthing with Amanda Barry, and he turns up with his family, and he sees the panto, and we all go out for dinner, and we're sitting there talking and chatting, and we're talking about Frost, and I said to him, I do miss you, you know. He said, so do I. I said, well, can't we do another one? He said, no. I said, why not? He said, well, I'm too old, and you're dead.
Brilliant. And for those that, oh, this mic is working now. For those of you that do know how it ended, I know that you've got a lovely story of how you found out what the ending was.
Oh yes, of course. Yeah, when it was shown, when that last episode was shown, it was 4 hours, that last episode. So they showed 2 hours on the Sunday, and the other 2 were going to be on the Monday. Well, I saw the Sunday one. I was in the Mousetrap at the time, so Sunday we didn't work. I saw that the first 2 hours. The second 2 hours on the Monday, I'm now in the theatre, so I'm working. I got home from the theatre probably about 20 past 10. The show had finished probably 15 minutes beforehand. I go into my house, I go upstairs into the lounge, it's all in darkness, and my wife is sitting there, and I put the light on, and she had tears coming down her face. I knew it was me. That's the only way I knew it was me. My wife would just watch me. And that's how I knew it was me. I never knew, nobody knew, until it went out. They kept it a secret.
And a very well kept secret, I can't believe
Oh,
that
completely. Well, they didn't want the papers to get hold of it.
Yeah.
They didn't want it to spoil it for people. So they didn't, in fact, we had 3 different scripts, all in brown envelopes. So even the other actors didn't know.
To be fair, he didn't even know when he was being pranked, so he was
Yeah,
never going
that's
to
true.
find
I
out.
didn't even guess that, that's true.
So you mentioned the Mousetrap,
Yeah.
and you were in that how many
3
times?
3 years. I did 3 years in that. In fact, I probably did, altogether, I probably did about 1,200 performances. And it's a long thing to do, you know, because you've got to concentrate constantly all the time. Because you've got the same words coming to you, and you're saying the same words back. So it's so easy just to drift off. And I think in all those performances, I only forgot my lines once. Just once. And that's a bit of a record. But what I did do, which is unforgivable for an actor, I missed coming on. I didn't come on in the scene. I was too busy talking, and that's unforgivable. And what it was, there were two characters, Mrs. Boyle and Mr. Paravicini, and they're on their own, on stage, having an argument. And I, as the major, have to come in the middle at the back, oh, and I stop them. And we have another scene, and we go off. Right. So at the back of the stage, they've got a green room where you go and you sit, and you have a chat, and you have a cup of tea, and you're listening, because the tannoy's up there, so you're listening for your cue. And I've done this many times before, so I'm listening for the cue, but I'm still chatting to an actress. In fact, looks a bit like you, actually. Now I look at you. So I'm chatting away and we're chatting, but I'm listening for my cue and I can hear it coming up. And as I can hear it coming up, I'm still talking like so. And I go to the door and she asked me another question. And like a fool, I went back and started to answer the question. So I'm answering this question and then suddenly the green room door swings open and the words that an actor doesn't want to hear. John, you're off. Oh my God, your heart misses a beat, you stand up. I ran to the side of the stage and I got into position and I take a deep breath and I make my entrance. Now, they have stopped a minute beforehand. They've run out of dialogue. They're on their own on the stage. They haven't got anything else to say. So Mrs. Boral goes over there, does a bit of light dusting. My dear gay friend David, the actor, he goes over there, picks up the poker and starts poking the fire. So I come on. Now we don't look at each other because we know we're going to giggle. So we don't look. We play the rest of the scene. I'm looking out there, they're looking there, they're looking there. We finish the scene, the curtain comes down, and as it comes, and of course I say, oh God, I'm so sorry. Oh, this was awful. How can I apologise? I'm so sorry. Well, David, my dear gay friend David, he played poking the fire over there. He goes, John, don't worry about it. I said, but David, I left you alone for at least a minute on a West End stage on your own without words to say. He said, oh, darling, don't worry. That's the longest poke I've ever had. It's not too rude, is it? You've heard worse.
So,
It's true.
I don't know how to follow that, John. But what I can say about the Mousetrap was you were in the cast on the night it got in the Guinness World Records.
Guinness Book of Records, I was, when it reached its 25th, 25,000 performance. Yes. Heaven only knows what it is now. Now here's a Trivial Pursuit question. This is true. Can anyone tell me, in 1952 when the Mousetrap opened, who was the very first leading actor? Come along. A very famous actor stroke director. Come along. It's a Trivial
Just
Pursuit.
John asked me.
You'll
this
thank me
as
for
well, and
this
I got
one
it
day
right.
when you're playing Trivial Pursuit. You'll win half a cheese or something. You don't know? Richard Attenborough. He was the very first leading actor, and his wife Sheila Sim, she was the leading lady. Listen, Dad, you'll thank me one day for that. And when you're playing Trivial Pursuit, they'll all say, what a clever sod he is.
He asked me that question, and I
Did you get it?
No, I wasn't a clever sod. So I got it wrong as well. Let's come on to more recent times, and obviously COVID and lockdown were a hard time for all of us, but especially for anyone who performs on stage in TV and theatre.
Yeah, it's impossible.
So how did you and your family cope with this postponement of so many of your scheduled shows and of course all the cruises that you did?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, well, I lost a lot of work, as everybody did. We didn't work. We couldn't even sit like this, and we all know that. And yes, I used to do. Well, I still do it. I'm glad to say. I do a lot of talks as a guest speaker on P&O cruise ships. And I think we've done about 40 now, which is lovely. And when I do it, and it's very much what I'm doing now, and I'm chatting to you, and I'm telling you my stories. There's a lot more I could tell you, but I'm telling my stories. And quite a few people said to me at the time afterwards, they would say to me, and they'd say to my wife, has your husband ever written a book? I said, no, I can't do that. That's not the sort of thing I would do. I haven't got the attention span to sit down and do all that. Anyway, along came lockdown, of course. No work, couldn't go out. So with my agent, Patsy and Morris, prompting me, and then my wife and my daughter saying, come on now, you must do this. And then Rick got in and he said, yes, you... Anyway, so I did. But when I started, I quite enjoyed it. Oh, well done. When I started, I enjoyed it tremendously. And all these things that come back to you, all these stories that come back, which are lovely. And people, you think, oh my God, I haven't thought about him for years. And then my wife would say, what about her? And then Patsy would say, oh, and on it went. So yes, at the end of the day, I had great fun doing it. But I probably wouldn't, if it hadn't been for COVID and lockdown, I probably would never have got to it now.
Well, that was the best thing to come out of lockdown, because I'm very glad that you did the book. Well, before I open this up to questions from the floor, there is one story that is in the book that I would like John to tell, and it concerns a certain member of twins.
Oh God.
So do you want to tell that story before I open it up to the floor?
Well, I could, Rick. He's talking about the Cray twins. Ronnie and Reggie he's talking about. Well, I was born in Whitechapel. They lived in the next street, in Ballas Road, with their mother Violet. Now, I could tell this story, but it would take about 20 minutes. I don't think we'd have to... It's in the book.
It's in the book.
It's
so
in the
if
book.
you want to find out the story of what happened with Reggie Cray.
Well, yeah, it was Reggie. They saved my life, in other words.
So if you want to find out how Reggie Cray saved John's life, the book is at the back.
Otherwise, we'll be here, it'll be like Ken Dodd, you won't get out till 1 o'clock in the morning.
So I think that it's clear that you have absolutely no intention of stopping. I'm sure that everybody would love to see John again, so if you get a chance to go to the Panto in Folkestone or anywhere that he's appearing, then please do so. We have a Not Just George Facebook page, and John sometimes appears on that himself, so please find that if you're on Facebook, and that will also tell you about some of the things that are going on, and where you can see him next, and how you can engage with him further. But I'm sure that you will agree that this has been a very interesting chat, and that you would all like to thank the very talented Mr. John Lyons.